is wasted in doubling to action stations. Let us watch this loading operation, bearing in mind that the process is the same on each side of the trailer. The first job is to position your skid pans, flat side to the ground, as we are working on a hard surface. One is put behind each front wheel and the transporter reversed onto them. Now this has been done, you may apply the brakes on each of your rear bogies by turning these screws anti-clockwise. There are 4 of these screws, 2 on each bogie. The ramp winch handles are carried in the equipment box beneath the platform. These are placed on the ramp winches and tension is applied to the ramp winch cables. The cable guides are then taken and placed into position, forming a stanchion for the ramp winch cables and giving sufficient leverage so that one man can easily raise or lower a ramp. Next, the stay nuts are unscrewed sufficiently to enable the lower end of the stays to be removed from their clips on the chassis. Now you will see the result. They come off the clips easily. When this has been done, the stays can be withdrawn from the ramps and placed on the ground. Then, as the ramps are lowered, the ramp struts can be removed and placed beside the stays. Now for the triangular ramp supports, which are taken off their hooks on each side of the platform and are placed into position while the ramps are being lowered. They should be placed at sufficient distance away from the rear of the trailer so that the tips of the ramps, when lowered, will rest upon their apex. Good judgment in placing these will often save a great deal of time. When the tips of the ramps reach the apex of the supports, track guides carried in the equipment box are fitted. To attach these, you simply insert their dowels into the locating holes in the ramps. Now the cable guides may be removed by lifting them off and allowing the ramp cables to rest on the ground. In racks underneath the trailer platform are carried bridge pieces and tail pieces. The bridge pieces are first removed and placed over the rear bogies. These now give a clean run from the ramps to the transporter platform. The tail pieces will complete the runway, so they're taken away from the racks and placed into position on the ends of the ramps where they are interlocked. Now you have an 18 degrees incline running from the ground to the rear of your platform. To load the grant, it is necessary to use a 3-to-1 pull. So first release the winch cable eye from the top of your platform by removing this pin. While this is being done, a Hollabin yoke is shackled to the towing eyes of the tank. Towards this, the winch cable is hauled out. The yoke is now shackled up. You will note that while 2 members of the crew are hauling out the cable, the other 2 are taking all necessary equipment to the tank, including a double sheave snatch block. With sufficient cable paid out, the lower bight or loop is then placed round the lower sheave of this snatch block. The yoke and the block are now shackled together. Secure shackling is of vital importance as, like the proverbial chain, a layout is no stronger than its weakest shackle. After this, the top loop or second cable bight is placed round the lower sheave of another snatch block, which is then shackled to the apex of the platform. The center return of the cable is hauled towards the tank and its eye attached to the front end of the first snatch block. Here you can see the entire layout for the 3-to-1 pull, and you can see how 3 returns of your winch cable run from the snatch block attached to the tank up to the top of your trailer platform. All is now ready for the winching operation. The driver returns to his cab in order to operate the winching controls. Shackling is carefully inspected by the NCO. This must always be done before winching is started. The co-driver takes up a position from which he can be seen by the driver when relaying the NCO's instructions. Now the ready signal is given and relayed, and this is closely followed by the signal to winch in, which is conveyed to the driver, who puts the order into effect. First, the slack cable is carefully wound in until the full tension is applied. Then, with slow acceleration, the tank starts rolling towards the ramps. You can see now how essential it is to have the transporter dead in line with the tank. This lesson is driven home to you once the tank starts fairly and squarely to surmount the ramps. The NCO decides to halt, and the driver immediately applies his winch brake. The NCO has observed that the tank is drawing slightly to one side of the ramps. This is something that must be rectified at once by adjusting the track guides accordingly. This done, the NCO reascends to his winching station and orders winching operations to recommence. The signal is relayed to the driver, who simultaneously releases his winch brake and starts winching. The Grant continues its journey up the ramps, this time to the complete satisfaction of the NCO. When the rear of the tank is halfway up the ramps, the signal is again given to halt, this time in order to attach the ramp-raising hawsers. These hawsers are carried in the equipment box and are attached by hooking their ends to the tank and the ramps. After this, both tailpieces are detached from the ramps and placed on the ground. Then, both track ramp guides are removed and the ramp-raising hawsers given the once-over by the NCO before recommencing to winch in. With the winching in, you'll notice how the ramps are drawn up as the tank ascends the platform. As you've seen, each ramp-raising hawser is attached by having one end hooked to the shackle on the rear towing eye of the tank and the other connected to the tubular cross member of the ramp. Owing to the weight distribution on the Grant, the center of gravity, shown in this instance by a chalk mark, is to the rear of its center bogie anchorage. The tank is halted when this mark is slightly forward of the appropriate mark on the trailer platform. The next job is to cross and shackle the front strainers at the top of the platform to the Holleben yoke on the front of the tank. After the strainers have been adjusted, the driver is ordered to ease off his winch brake. The tank then rolls back until its center of gravity coincides with the appropriate mark on the trailer platform. Now to prepare for the road. Tail pieces have already been stowed. Next, the bridge pieces are removed and stowed away in the racks. Triangular ramp supports are replaced and secured on their hooks. The ramp struts are positioned and stays reinserted. Meanwhile, other members of the crew have winched in the slack cable and are taking up sufficient tension to enable the stay nut to be screwed tight. After this, tension is removed from the cable. Now the ramp-raising hawsers are removed and stowed away. With the Warwick strainers provided for the purpose, the rear of the tank has now been strained down. These are finally checked over by the NCO, while other members of the crew are releasing the trailer brakes at both rear and front of the bogies. Once these jobs have been completed, the crew must waste no time in remounting the vehicle and getting away. After a general once-over by the NCO, all is ready for the broad highway. The NCO dismounts again to shepherd the loaded transporter through the narrow entrance and onto the road. The loading operation you have just seen can be accomplished in 10 minutes, but only if each member of the crew knows his various jobs. Teamwork must be the keynote throughout the entire operation. Now we'll see the 30-ton Scammell tank transporter tackle another job. This time it is to recover and load a Covenanter, which is bellied and badly bogged. For this job, it's necessary to split the transporter. That is, to remove the semi-trailer so that its tractor can be used as a normal recovery vehicle. This separation is as simple as a Hollywood divorce. In the same way as you prepare the trailer for loading, you first of all apply the brakes on your rear bogies. At the same time, the jacks are removed, after releasing the pressure, by turning and withdrawing first the retaining pin and then the bayonet pin at the top end. Now the jack is carried to its position at the side of your trailer. The other jack is being similarly positioned on the far side. To provide a firm base for the jack, a gun plank is taken from the rack and placed upon the ground immediately below the jack sockets. Upon this plank is placed the jack. The valve is closed and the jack pumped up until its pinhole corresponds to those of the trailer sockets. While this is being done on each side of the trailer, the application of the brakes is being continued. The jack is finally positioned and the bayonet pin inserted and locked by turning. The two members of the crew on the other side are also completing the preparation of the jacks and the application of the brakes. The next step is for the driver to mount his cab in order to winch in the slack cable preparatory to unthreading it from the semi-trailer. Tension is applied and the cable is winched in until there is about 3 feet of it left at the top guide pulley. When this limit is reached, the order to halt is given. Now the cable eye is removed from the side of the frame by withdrawing the bayonet pin. Meanwhile, other members of the crew start disconnecting the air pipeline by unscrewing this hexagon nut. The electric light lead is disconnected, and a second point on the air line is severed. By the way, don't forget to fit the blanking nut to the air union on the container bridge. After this, the airline bracket is unbolted and lifted from the trailer. Now back to the winch cable. On the center pulley, a retaining pin is removed and the cable eye passed down and round. Beneath the platform, a retaining pin is removed from the lower pulley, and the cable is passed down until the whole of it is clear of the trailer. The cable is then winched in until the eye can be passed out through the rear rollers. When this has been done, it is ready for straightforward winching. Now the jacks are raised preparatory to removing the 2 retaining pins which secure the trailer to the tractor turntable. These pins are removed with the aid of an extractor after first removing the securing bolt. The remainder is quite a simple procedure by screwing in and locking the extractor bolt, then putting over it an extractor sleeve. A washer is now placed over the bolt and the extractor nut screwed on. Continue screwing this nut until the retaining pin is finally withdrawn. Orders are now given by the NCO to continue extending the jacks. This elevates the platform. Both of these jacks must be extended simultaneously to avoid twisting strain on the trailer chassis, platform is raised until its draft lugs are lifted clear of the turntable. Now the tractor is free to move off as soon as the driver receives the signal from the NCO. On the trailer, the jack valves are opened and the platform lowered. These jacks must not be left under pressure while you are away working on the recovery job. After the required recovery equipment has been transferred from the trailer, the tractor proceeds to the casualty, where you will see it doing a normal winching recovery. The NCO has calculated that a 4-to-1 pull is required. Here it is, laid down and the winching already in operation. You'll notice that the towing hawser is connected to the front towing eyes of the casualty. Because of the unfavorable ground conditions, it is impracticable to pass the towing hawser under the belly of the casualty and attach it to the rear towing eyes. When the casualty has been recovered and all equipment stowed, the tractor can be reconnected to the trailer and the casualty loaded. You'll again notice the use of the ramp raising hawsers. So, strained down in the normal manner by Warwick strainers, we are soon on the road. Including sharp bends, there are few places this vehicle cannot negotiate. A transporter should always be accompanied by a motorcyclist to reconnoiter the route ahead. The Scammell 30-ton tank transporter is a steady and dependable vehicle, and its correct handling a vital job in all armored formations. Another grand transporter is the 40-ton Cranes Tank Transporter Mark II. It's a combination of the Diamond T 6x4 tractor and the 40-ton 24-wheeled Cranes Mark II trailer. In spite of its size, the loading drill is simple and straightforward, as you'll see. A Churchill with partially locked tracks is about to be loaded, so first the trailer must be aligned with the tank. As it's impracticable to reverse the transporter when connected in the normal manner, the trailer is nosed into line. This method makes for ease of maneuver. Its drawbar, you will see, is connected to the front towing attachment, while the brake pipelines are attached to the front air connections of the tractor. By the way, the trailer has no outer guide rails and the inner guide rails are adjustable. Once it's squared up with the job, the tractor's turned round and reconnected. Now for the laying of skid pans. These are placed so that the spades will dig into the soft ground when the tractor is reversed onto them in the usual way. All trailer brakes are now applied by turning the two trunnion wheels. The offside trunnion applies the front brakes and the near side the rear. The next operation is to position the hinged triangular ramps. To release them, you first unscrew the securing attachment. They are then swung down on their pivots, not forgetting to place the distance pieces provided between the ramp steps and the platform tail. All the tackle for a 5-to-1 pull is now unloaded. The necessary shackles and skidding and 2 double-sheave snatch blocks. The tank towing hawsers needed will be found in the casualty. Incidentally, the Diamond T must carry 7 to 14 tons of ballast in order to obtain sufficient tractive effort. Here's the layout of tackle for a 5-to-1 pull. The winch rope or cable passes from the rear of the tractor over the roller. This double-sheave snatch block is attached to the trailer and carries 4 returns of the cable. Then there are 5 returns running down to the second snatch block under the belly of the tank, which is connected to 2 of the rear towing eyes. With your casualty in dead line with the ramps, no difficulty should be experienced when loading. The winching operation is conducted in the normal manner. To load this Churchill with partially locked tracks means applying approximately twice the pull required to load one with free tracks. The fact that this can be accomplished is a striking tribute to the strength and sturdy construction of the transporter. With the casualty safely on board and after the loading tackle has been disconnected and stowed, the casualty is strained down, a single strainer on the front and crossed Warwick strainers at the rear. Never allow the threaded portions of your strainers to foul. Once again, remember to recheck your straining after the first mile on the road. Another 40-ton transporter you may use for recovery is the Diamond T drawn Rogers trailer. This differs very slightly from the cranes, and when on the job is operated in a similar manner. The main tank recovery transporters to remember, therefore, are the 20-ton Scammell with its horizontal platform and detachable ramps, the 30-ton Scammell with its inclined platform and drawbridge ramps, the Diamond T drawn cranes 40-ton Mark II trailer. Whether through country, desert or town, all these vehicles are designed to play an important part. There are, of course, others like the... Oh, well, this is still on the secret list.
Variety is the spice of life. Ask any recovery unit. You ditch 'em, we fix 'em is the Remy slogan, and out they come. Well, all those came out, why not this one? This Churchill is off the road and must be remobilized for action. We've pulled them out of bogs, ditches and craters. Now here's one bellied in a gully. It's a nasty packet of trouble and calls for slightly different treatment, but what goes in must come out, so here goes. Now this is the man who starts the ball rolling, the recovery NCO. We'll join in the reconnaissance and see what sort of a job he's got to tackle. At a glance, it can be seen that the Churchill is well and truly bellied along its entire length on the edge of a gully. In addition, the near side track is right off and trailing away behind. This was the cause of all the trouble. What about the near side bogies? They're well down in the soil, which, being soft, should have prevented damage to the wheels and spindles. This soft soil means that the use of jacks in the gully is out of the question. When the suspension is dug in like this, it's not practicable to haul the casualty out nose or rear first. The bogies would only be pulled further into the bank. Well, that gives some idea of the conditions of the ground and the casualty. But what about its track? It's been thrown clear of the tank, but has it been damaged? There's a broken plate at the end nearest the tank. This is what caused the track to be thrown off, but as the Churchill carries spares, that's just a replacement job. Are there any more breakages like that? A quick look along the track soon shows that the rest is all right. Now, what about the offside of the casualty? Well, this track is off its bogies. Still, it's not broken, and that's about all you can say for it. This definitely decides the NCO against pulling the tank forward or backward. If he did, the track would come right off. From this initial reconnaissance, 4 important things have been learnt. First, that the tank is bellied with its near side bogies well down in the gully. Second, that the near side track is right off with a broken plate. Third, that the offside track is off its bogies. Finally, the ground conditions in the gully are such that any attempt at jacking would result in a lot of cursing, and that's about all. Now, how does the NCO intend to tackle the job? That, of course, depends on the equipment he's brought. Well, there's the vehicle. Do you recognize it? Yes, it's the good old Scammell breakdown tractor. Your casualty may be as stubborn as a mule. but with a capable crew, there are few jobs the Scammell can't take in its stride. With the motorcyclist escort already posted as sentry, the crew soon get their Scammell from the temporary harbour. You'll have noticed that they have fitted overall chains, a wise precaution before venturing on soft ground. What about its equipment? Well, the vehicle carries its normal complement plus a few additional items, but more about that in a moment. All arms are stowed in racks on the Scammell. This would be the rallying point if the sentry gave the alarm. Now, how is the job going to be tackled? At present, there's only one man who knows this, and that's the NCO. And if he's wise, he'll give his crew a good idea of what's to be done. So, NCOs, always bring your crews into the picture. Now, you remember, the NCO decided that he could neither jack this tank up, nor pull it out nose or rear first. What, then, is his plan? This diagram shows how, at the moment, the Churchill lies bellied. It must be got clear of the gully, so the NCO decides to tackle it in this way. It can't be lifted bodily, but the near side can be raised until the bogies are out of the gully. It's now on its offside track, and once up, it will be pulled so that it slides on its offside track until the tank is well clear of the gully and on even ground. Here it will be tilted until the near side bogies are raised off the ground, ready for the cast-off track to be pulled underneath. That's all very nice, but how's it going to be done? Well, the NCO has decided to lay down a 5-to-1 tackle. The casualty end will then look like this, so that they'll need gun planks, 2 15-ton snatch blocks, 2 plate-type shackles, a 12-ton shackle, and a Mark IV hawser. These then are the items to be offloaded at the casualty end. This crew, by the way, is part of a Remy airborne unit. They literally jump to their work. Here's the equipment laid out. A Mark IV hawser, gun planks, skidding, 20 and 12-ton shackles, and 2 15-ton snatch blocks. Now, the first job is laying the gun planks along which the tank will slide during winching. Soil must be removed to get the ends under the track. Leaving 2 men to do that, the NCO and the driver can position the tractor for pulling the near side track out of the gully. This must be done before the tractor takes up its final recovery position. There's a job for everybody here, as there should be in all recovery work. Now, where's the NCO going to put the track? The track, which is half in and half out of the gully, has to be moved, first out of the gully and onto level ground. Then it is pulled towards the tank so that it is in alignment with the near side bogies, in the position they will be after the tank has been recovered from the gully. Winching out this track is straightforward. The winch rope is simply run out and shackled direct to the end of the track. Manhandling this track would be an impossible job with a crew of only 4, but of course it's easy meat for the Scammell. Out comes its entire 3 tons, like a giant snake. Now the winch rope is unshackled and run out towards the casualty. You'll notice that this crew have their own combined operation, hauling the track out and at the same time preparing the tank for recovery. And that's the way all crews should work. While the NCO is down this end, how are those diggers getting on? They've dug and positioned 5 gun planks already and are digging a place for the 6th. Good work. Anyway, let's get this track aligned with the tank's bogies. Remember the diagram? Now, here's a good wheeze that'll save a lot of trouble. Use the casualty as a holdfast. A GS snatch block is unloaded from the tractor and carried to the tank where